Hi, I'm Folke from Norway, and for the last 6 months I've lived in a mountain cabin without electricity or inbuilt water. I wanted to escape from Oslo, where I always felt busy. Instead, my goal was to live in radical solitude with time for reading and contemplation. I wanted to live like a hermit. And so I cut off ties with work, friends, and family. My mom was terrified, horrified. But many actually got inspired. They'd also felt this impulse of just wanting to leave and be alone. And so if you felt like that before, I want to share my story of following that impulse. In August 2016, I rented a cabin and moved in with my books and some warm clothes. Once a week, I would go down to the village and buy groceries, and the rest of the week I would be alone and disconnected in my cabin, reading and exploring nature. And the first weeks were great. In a matter of 2 months, I'd read more than I'd done the past year. In the solitude, the books somehow came to life, and in the silence, you could almost hear the whisper of dead authors. It was strange. And so in those 2 first months, no university in the world could match my cabin. Apart from the reading, I walked in nature and chased sheep at day. It's kind of like Espen. He got chased by oxen, but I chased sheep. So that's what we do in Norway. And I also danced for 30 minutes every day to keep my mood up. But gradually, a change happened. As weeks became months, solitude became loneliness. I could see it in my dance. At first, I danced like in a rave party, jumping ecstatically up and down. Now I was walking around like an elderly patient. I could also see the change in my weekly visit to town. Before, grocery shopping felt like a distraction. Now it was my absolute highlight of the week. Sometimes I would make a small conversation with the waitress while she gathered dirty dishes and glasses. And when I again was up in my cabin, alone, I would cherish those moments of human contact. I was beginning to long back to society again. Most of all to that human contact, just looking into someone's eyes, smiling, laughing, and talking. And while this change happened in me, winter came. Now, I don't know if you've been to Norway, but it can get pretty cold and dark, especially in the mountains. And a mass of snow isolated me even more from civilization, and my project of radical solitude was getting pretty serious. At this point, I considered moving back to Oslo. 3 months had gone. I'd begun seeing faces in the ceiling. I sometimes talked with my own shadow. There weren't good conversations there. And I was on the verge of a depression. Yet I continued. I was stubborn, and I continued. And the next months went as one would expect. I slept for 15 hours a day. Often I would just lie in my sleeping bag, too tired to do anything. Reading was not an alternative, so I stared up into the ceiling. I think I was beginning to see the true face of loneliness, because I escaped from people to explore art and philosophy, and though I physically escaped, I thought of friends when I was awake, and I dreamt of family when I slept. If loneliness revealed any mysteries, it was that humans are not meant to live alone. And so, in this darkness came Christmas. Originally, I intended to stay in my cabin, celebrating alone, but as Christmas Eve approached, I couldn't withstand the temptation. I decided to go home for a couple of days. And when I came home, Mom was crying with joy. And she's going to pop up. There she is. And after a long hug, she looked me in the eyes and said, "Folke, you need a shower." And so I took a shower, I shaved, and I put on a shirt. I came home like a wild man, but now I was tame again. And during those days, I gained renewed energy when I played with my niece and talked with my family. I was gaining this sense that loneliness sucks, and being with others is really nice. While loneliness is stagnation, community is movement and life. And it became even clearer when I read through my diary. I didn't write about great philosophers. Half of my diary was about the waitress I met for some minutes once a week. I knew practically nothing about her, but she was the only human contact I had. And I hope she doesn't watch this because I'll sound like a stalker. And so after Christmas, I decided to move back to Oslo again in February, 6 months after beginning my journey. And so in a week from now, I will enjoy a hot water shower every day, electrical lights and internet. But more importantly, I will be with my friends again, and family, friends and family. So this story is ending. What have I learned, and what insight can I share with you? In these months, I didn't discover the mysteries of loneliness, but instead the value of community, the sense that we're stuck with each other, and since there's no escape into loneliness, we might as well just do the best we can together. That said, I think being alone can be good for... I'm friends with the sheep there. That said, I think solitude can be good for a short time. In spite of sleeping for 3 months, I actually got good grades on my university exams. And that was because I read so much in those two first months of solitude. Being alone was productive in the short term. But in the end, I think I've learned the small yet necessary happiness there is when the waitress looks into your eyes and smiles, or when you hug your mom, or simply in participating in a community, just like we're doing now here at this PechaKucha event. Thank you.